I'm Hans van Oostrom. I'm the director of the AI² Center at the University of Florida, which is bringing you this AI² Summit. We are privileged to have with us UF Interim President Dr. Donald Landry to open the conference. Dr. Landry has led UF since last September. He headed the Department of Medicine and the Medical Service at Columbia University in New York from 2007 to 2023, and he's Chair Emeritus. He is founding director of the Birch Lodge Center for Human Longevity at Columbia and past physician-in-chief at New York Presbyterian Hospital, Columbia University Medical Center. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Donald Landry.
Thank you, Dr. Van Oostrom. And good morning to all. And welcome to UF's second AI² Summit. I am honored to be joined by fellow presidents, provosts, faculty, industry partners from across Florida, 39 states, 10 countries, 4 continents. Special thanks to our presenters and panelists, to Dr. Van Oostrom and his AI² Center team, and to the UF Conference Department, all of whom make this gathering possible, a gathering of 450 plus participants. UF's leadership in AI in the university bears some comment. I am uniquely positioned for that commentary, first and foremost because I had nothing to do with it. As you've just heard, I joined the university relatively recently. Having nothing to do with it, with UF's success in this area, I am unrestrained by the social demands of personal modesty and can freely tell you the truth. The salient elements behind UF's success in AI are seemingly random. One is a historical reality. We're a land-grant institution. A land-grant institution that has retained its land-grant ethos to serve the educational needs of the people of the state and thereby the nation. Very simple, but it permeates the place 173 plus years after its founding. The rest is an ode to an aphorism. Fortune favors the prepared mind. Consider a CEO who builds a data center almost a decade before ChatGPT appears on the scene, with the expansion capacity to handle some vastly greater demand for megawatts, not even on the horizon. An alum co-founder of an AI company who gives his alma mater a good look and finds it uniquely positioned to accept his gift of an AI-compatible supercomputer in 2020, well before AI hits the scene, explodes on the scene. A provost who understands instantly the need for a plan of vast scope, focused from the first instance on the curriculum, on the students, the student body. A governor who, with insight and boldness, funds 100 AI faculty for a single university, positions to supercharge and lock in a transformation in a vast university. It's a university with 60,000 students, 38,000 undergraduate, 22,000 graduate students, all on a single campus, 16 colleges, thousands of faculty. Okay. Major transformation needs to take place. If you are going to make a ripple in an institution like this, it needs to be on the scale of 100 faculty, brought in with AI savvy, able to catalyze, distributed throughout the departments. We have about 102 departments among those 16 colleges. And the rest is now history. AI is permeating the curriculum. It's everywhere in the curriculum. Hundreds of courses with over 50% AI content. It affects our research enterprise. 2/3 of our $1.3 billion annual research expenditure has AI as an important component in the specific aims. We push it back to the state so we can help the state manage its enormous data, the data of the state of Florida. We also give it to every public university in the state of Florida on the same terms we give it to our own faculty. We push it out to the SEC, our hated opponents on the playing field of every sport. Just joking. All of this is thanks to UF CIO Elias Elderi, NVIDIA co-founder Chris Malachowsky, UF Provost Joe Glover, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Each contributed a stroke of genius to what came about. The good news, insight, once achieved, renders invention obvious. So while there will be variations in every institution, the idiosyncratic facts of history, personal relationships, opportunities, challenges, all of these things will require adaptation. But at least there's a glimpse of a path forward. And historic performance does de-risk, at least partially, even complex endeavors. Now you will hear from us our notion of the future. We have a 2024 Blue Sky Initiative, and we're looking at self-serve tutors that are now in beta testing, AI campus guides to help new students get plugged in quickly. In an institution so vast, people can get lost. This is now going to put an angel on each shoulder. Also, a unified platform for AI agents that will enable them to help the students glimpse the future, where agents are involved throughout the workforce. Therefore, they need to be involved throughout the university. This AI² Summit is well positioned to consider our future, our shared future. The future of AI is in this room, and it's been my pleasure to address you and greet you, and I look forward to seeing what comes from this magnificent event. Thank you.
We are gathered at this summit to explore incorporating AI into higher education, from university operations to classroom applications. I'm thrilled that we have with us two national leaders who have done more to advance this cause than anyone else. Chris Malachowsky is the co-founder of NVIDIA, the company that helped pioneer accelerated computing and the modern artificial intelligence. Chris has led core technology initiatives that transformed the GPU from a graphics engine to a platform powering breakthroughs in research, science, and medicine. A prolific inventor and a member of the Florida Inventors Hall of Fame, he's also a proud UF Gator, earning his bachelor's in science in electrical engineering with high honors from UF before completing a master's of science in computer science at Santa Clara University. In 2020, he helped catalyze UF's AI future with the gift of its first AI supercomputer, and his enduring commitment is embodied in Malachowsky Hall, our next generation hub for AI. Joe Glover is the interim provost and executive vice president for academic affairs at UF. He spearheads UF's embrace of artificial intelligence starting in 2020, guiding the university in embedding teaching and learning AI across the curriculum and all 16 of its colleges. Today, more than 14,000 students are enrolled in AI courses, supported by more than 300 AI-focused faculty. In his day job, Provost Glover oversees the university's academic enterprise, from teaching and scholarship to academic administration and programs. Please join me in welcoming Chris Malachowsky and Joe Glover.
Well, welcome everyone. Let me add my welcome to everyone who's here. And this is an unscripted fireside chat. I think I can tell you with total candor that Chris and I have not discussed what we're going to discuss here. So it may be as much of a surprise to me as it is to you. Let me start out the conversation. Basically, I want us to take advantage of Chris's unique insight into a tremendously rapidly developing technology. And let me start out by observing that in November 2022, we saw ChatGPT burst upon the scene, right? And you showed me a graph where the adoption of ChatGPT basically shot up vertically. So this fall, in September 2026, all the universities will enroll the first freshman class that has had ChatGPT through all 4 years of high school. So maybe I'd like to ask you if you could comment on this and whether you think that the universities in the United States are prepared and have positioned themselves appropriately to meet this new digitally enabled generation of students we're now encountering.
Well, I guess mixed bag on answer. Clearly AI is a new game in town. When it showed up and became broadly available. I think you cannot deny it. You couldn't stop it if you wanted to. That young people are going to embrace it. I think that puts a challenge on educators. I mean, I remember when the calculator showed up, and we all started using it, and the school started banning the use of calculators, and those of us that actually wanted to amount to something realized you were losing math skills. And so, you almost voluntarily gave it up, even given the mandate. I think, today's kids are going to come in with an expectation that they need to learn, they already got that. That they need to learn something else, something in addition, something that'll help them use it better. And so I think it puts a real demand on educators, in higher ed especially, because my belief, is anything that's a task is going to get automated. Today it'll be knowledge tasks, things that take information. Maybe in the future it'll be some physical tasks, but the task itself will get automated. The thing that most people, find, the common person finds AI, worrisome, but because they worry about that. The reality is, I don't think many people's job is the task. An accountant didn't go away because they didn't have their yellow pad and a calculator next to them because they had a spreadsheet. Their job is to interpret the numbers, not calculate the numbers. So I think, the challenge for education, and as I've traveled around the country now promoting this, it's a mixed bag in that you're going to have to teach everything you always taught. And then you're going to have to teach some stuff on top of it or re-emphasize things on top of it, like critical thinking, judgment, vetting inputs and managing agents. I didn't come out of school knowing anything about managing, even myself barely. And now you're going to have these 50 things, 100 things that you're going to be managing. You didn't hire them, you didn't write their job spec, you didn't interview them, yet they're supposed to help you. And you need to, I think most people's productivity and value to their companies and families and communities is going to be how well they manage this. If you ignore it, you're going to lose. I mean, if you don't take advantage of it, you're going to lose. And if you take advantage of it half-heartedly, you're not likely to win. But if you master it and get on top of it, I think the opportunities are almost limitless. And as I travel around, most, in a lot of schools I guess are represented here, at least in the United States, everybody's realized this is a big deal. Some have organized to try to capitalize on it and embrace it. Others have gone beyond organization, like you guys, that are really fully committed to it. And so the summit is a good time for everybody to sort of think deep about how pervasive this stuff should be in your organizations, in your business, in your institutions. And it's still evolving. So it's not like you can just make one decision and be good with it. I mean, you started off with AI and there weren't agents. Now there's agents. You have to, incorporate that. And now there's, the agent operating system, this OpenClaw, which is another thing where you can have it go off and do real work and orchestrate its own work. But we need to keep the human in the loop. I think that's the only, first of all, that avoids the downside of the rhetoric that says, we're all going to lose our jobs. I don't believe that. But if we defer, we will. So we need to keep the human in the loop. We need the human to know how to take advantage of being in the loop. And we need to make the combination of the human and their AI counterparts better than either of them are alone.
So you've been on a little bit of a crusade around the country to really encourage increasing capacity in AI and higher education and state government and the country at large. And I think you have a feeling for how government and higher education is thinking about it. And I guess, as you've observed, there's been a little bit of uneven adoption. What are the cultural factors, or what are you finding is standing in the way of AI capacity increasing more quickly than it is?
Yeah. So just to set the stage, a couple of years ago, I looked back on the UF experience, what you guys accomplished. I gave you a piece of iron. You turned it into a thing that transformed the university, and in its sum, it's a replicable prescription of how to transform, the education system here in Florida, but anywhere, and with public and private support. So I've been going around pitching this as an altruistic effort. It's not an NVIDIA effort. It's kind of me just saying, look, here's an answer. Why don't we do this? And there's the hesitancy is probably the same as we all see in your daily life. Some people want to deny that this is a good thing. It's scary. It's change. We resist change. Others have decided it's important, but haven't and given it the rhetoric and maybe set up some programs, but haven't organized really around it, haven't really embraced it fully. And then there's others that they're fully embracing it. It's gotten to the point, and I just, this is serious infrastructure. It's costly. It takes professional management. It could be transformative. You may or may not. When you guys started, you didn't have the faculty. Now I would imagine most schools have faculty that know a lot about data science and AI. But it's breaking out of silos. There's a cultural thing. There's a you got to break out of your silos. Work with others, share. Turn from hypothesis and experiments to getting good vetted data and asking good questions. Let the machine find correlations. So that, there's a cultural and a behavioral shift. At the state level, there's a growing, this is my observation, either I see it or when I mention it, I see eyes light up like aha, I get it now. That computation should not be considered in the domain of educators, researchers, big business. It's infrastructure. It's like water and power. How do you run your state without a strong computational footing? And when expressed that way, even the hesitant states are starting to see, oh, this is something I need to do for my constituents. It's not just help the school, the sector, this initiative, and so the times are changing. I think the recognition that this is very substantial infrastructural build out. I mean, whether you went to college or not, if you're skilled labor. I just met a guy, flew out here, and I met a guy in Amarillo who was there with his wife and 2 young kids to get lunch, and we just started up a conversation because there was a wait list. And It was his first day off in 6 weeks. He had gone from being a truck driver to an electrician, and he is consumed building data centers. This is, AI is not just an app. It's not, a ChatGPT window that you type into or whatever chatbot you like. And it's, my partner Jensen expressed this recently at Davos. There's apps, there's models, lots of fundamental work going on there. There's data centers, there's the computational elements NVIDIA and others provide, and underneath that is the electrical needs that are feeding these knowledge production factories. That's like, as Jensen expressed it, the largest infrastructure build-out in human history. And recently I was on a panel with Mike Rowe, the guy from Dirty Jobs, who videoed himself in his bathrobe in his kitchen watching a YouTube video of Jensen talking about this pyramid and this big infrastructural build-out, and he's, call me. This is the guy who's made his career promoting, the interests of skilled labor. And, post Dirty Jobs, he has a big foundation that does scholarships for that. And so, it's a big deal. It's more than just the application of AI. It's, this whole build-out. So it has been a mixed adoption, or at least embracement across states and schools, but everybody seems to have gotten the memo. And now I think the charm of me promoting the experience that I saw happen here is that it's a prescription that can be replicated, adopted, and used to sort of galvanize a lot of efforts. Most schools have some effort in AI or in research, and doing research or having AI agendas, but not that many have it all organized and galvanized, and, where it's a coordinated effort.
So some of what you say suggests that there's going to be an interesting restructuring of the relationship among universities and industry and state government to sort of leverage this technology. Do you see any of that evolving at this point?
Yeah, so I've been pitching this public-private investment where, just laid out that some benefactor buys a thing. The thing being the machine, like we did at Florida, that's just the catalyst. I mean, it in itself is not anything. The schools get behind it, and the state, the schools, I call it the care and feeding of the thing, and the states get behind it for the exploitation of the thing. So, whether it's funding research or building digital twins of some phenomena in your state, your topsoil is blown away, your coastline is deteriorating, the rising tides, aging populations, whatever it might be, Great Salt Lake is, levels dropping. The state and the schools can use it for, and the magic in Florida turned out to be that I met you the day I had this idea. And I didn't give it to the engineering department, no offense to engineering departments, but it became a university asset that you could use for strategic purposes and allocate, without all the constraints that the department might have. So, by asking states, the public and the private to get together on the initiative means they all have skin in the game. They all can, use it for purposes beyond the obvious. I mean, these machines are research machines. We shouldn't kid ourselves. These are big, massive, computational beasts. I'm pitching it as workforce development and AI literacy. And that gets, no one argues against that. There's just, not a political argument that says, oh, we don't want people to have jobs, or, we don't want people to thrive in this, this new era. And that gets everybody aligned. And the reality is, behind the scenes, most of the machines can be used for research. I mean, undeniably. And that, it just seems to be galvanizing, that industry and small and medium businesses, startups are going to leverage the resources of that are now kind of state, facing, or, public-facing resources, not just a private, better microscope in a lab. And the states are embracing it because they have lots of needs and issues, and the schools are embracing it because they have to modernize education and serve, their customers. So yeah, I do think it's changing, and it seems to be changing quick. At least there's lots of interest.
Okay, so I'd like to change the subject a little bit. One of the things that all of us do is allocate time, effort, and money, right? I do it in the educational sphere. The CIO does it in terms of the utilization of machine and the computational capabilities. And over the past 4 years, ever since ChatGPT hit the scene, everyone is really, to my mind, has really been focused on ChatGPT. Right? But AI is a big basket of techniques, right? It's digital twins, it's computer vision, it's remote sensing, it's robotics, et cetera. Where should universities place their time, energy, and money? Should they place it largely on large language models, that's sort of the general purpose tool of the future, or are these other techniques important to allocate or to include in your educational portfolio?
I guess the answer I would say is yes. How's that for a cop-out? You need these models, the ChatGPTs of the world, and there's a lot of them, and a lot of major players are really powerful, are going to be used, are going to be part of the student's journey. The interesting part of where I think, at least in my opinion, where the industry has gotten is now there's, you can get an open source, free, language model, where all the training data is exposed and post-training data and the techniques and now you can start from this least common this base, where you can build on top of this thing that knows how to read language, knows how to speak, knows how to understand, can read PDFs and watch videos and extract from it. And now you can layer on top of that whatever the area of interest you are. So you just start with this base. It's really powerful. It's kind of unprecedented. And now whatever your area of interest is, you can build your knowledge, your domain-specific knowledge, your area of interest knowledge on top of it. And the more good data you get in there that might weigh in on whatever the problem you're trying to solve, the area you're trying to look at, you'll get a better result because you let the machine figure out the correlation. So, you can, in every discipline, in every business, you don't have to rely on these public domain commercial tools where maybe you're not comfortable exposing your private data or your corporate data. And you can build on top of something almost equally as powerful, and you can just start going from there. And you can share data, securely among institutions, among businesses, and we could all benefit from the fact that the more vetted, good data that these things ingest, the more likely every answer gets better.
So let's talk, or I'm going to ask you to talk about agents, right? This really powerful technology that's coming along that's going to do tremendous things, but at the same time is a little bit frightening and poses new challenges of management that we've never seen before. Could you talk for a couple of minutes about what you see coming and how we're going to deal with this and how it's going to change how we do our work?
Yeah, and some of it I'm just repeating the rhetoric of, my company. Because I'm not that deep into it myself, but observationally, we're changing software from being a tool to it using tools itself. So the agents are the tool, its capability to go use tools to solve a problem. So, you can query disk drives, you can go off on the internet and look at things, you can run test cases, and if it fails, run a different, change the input or change the thing being assessed. And it's really powerful, and it's going to be, it really extends the reach and the capability of these systems to build an answer, to satisfy whatever the interests are of the user. The challenge is it has to be set up right. You have to be sure it's giving, just because it's doing a lot of work doesn't mean you got a good answer. I mean, it's just like a spreadsheet, right? It'll always give you an answer. But if the input isn't good and, and the equations that you implement aren't right, you'll get a wrong answer, very, very confidently a wrong answer. These things need to be guided. I think, this open claw that came out is really powerful and is really taken off, again, like ChatGPT did in terms of adoption and interest. But it needs to be augmented with, security and things. And NVIDIA and many other companies are working to sort of build on that idea, on that infrastructure to build the surrounding mechanisms to make sure it's safe and secure.
And could we talk about that a little bit more? I mean, with the large language models, they didn't really interact in any way. But with agents, we anticipate that they're going to be talking to each other, interacting, making joint decisions. How do you manage a new environment like that?
Beyond me, Joe, beyond me. But I'm watching the adoption at NVIDIA, and it's fast, it's thoughtful. Things it can now do, it's just more automation. In many respects, it's more automation. You would have built this yourself. You would have, let's say you would have generated code, you would have run a bunch of tests, and you would have taken the results of the test and tried to modify the code to fix whatever the problems were. Now this is going to happen in the background, but you need to guide it. You need to say what it is you're looking for, and what it is, what goodness is, and these things will go off. So again, it's a big productivity gain. Mm-hmm. But equally, it's a challenge. The uptake of this open cloud type operating system for agents, that's what I see it as, is so great that it must be that it's doing that management structure for you, or providing the mechanisms for you to do this management, or it wouldn't have taken off so fast. It's just another example of letting the machine do the busy work. Once you can prescribe it, it'll happen, but it needs to be managed, it needs to be checked, it needs to be vetted, it needs to be steered against your problem statement, make sure you're getting good answers. And I think it's going to free up capacity to go do other things. Mm-hmm. And this is why I don't think it's a net loss of jobs. I think it's a net gain of jobs. Because once you free up capacity, somebody's going to go take on another opportunity, and that opportunity is going to expose more innovation, and that innovation will be another boon to free up more capacity. And the problem set being attacked by businesses, researchers, I think will just grow, at least for the foreseeable future.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so workforce is a topic that there's a lot of attention on. I know the federal government is placing a lot of emphasis on it. NSF came out a week or two ago with a solicitation to try and build workforce in all the states of the nation. What will an educated student who graduates from the university look like? What will he or she be prepared to do? What skills do you think they'll need to carry into the workplace that will really help the nation move ahead?
Going around and talking about this, I think it's the same things we've been trying to teach ourselves and our kids forever, which is critical thinking and judgment. And in K through 12, I've been saying we can teach AI literacy. You don't need a computer anywhere in sight. Don't need a screen. You don't need a keyboard. Just critical thinking, judgment. The agency to want to do something. By and large, the successful new entree into the business world will come with them, a bag of tricks, which will include, how to use AI, what it's good for, where it can help them, what's the range of tools, what's the types of things I could ask from it, and they'll know how to take their task, their job, and amplify it by using these things and be more productive. And the businesses are going to expect that. I mean, I think the product of education has to produce, for at least the knowledge worker, the non-skilled labor, is gonna have to produce that. But I think, almost any walk of life can use these types of tools and the type of systems and things on your phone and so forth to make their everyday life a little more productive, a little easier, help them, embrace the challenges of the world with a little more insight. The challenge, and just to be frank, is how do you get the benefit of experience if you don't, our systems are designed to take somebody from, a neophyte and work them up to an experienced senior person. But if that entry-level position is now, removed because that's automatable, how do you get thrown into the middle without having that on-ramp? So I think, we need, that's an area we need to work on. I think, one of the beauties and challenges of AI is the value of deep expertise can now be brought to somebody without having earned it. They didn't live it to get there to know it all, that you can bring this expert thing with you. And if you're a software coder, you could bring the user interface expert to weigh in on your problem, or the product marketing, expertise. And the user interface person can bring the coding expertise and the marketing guy. So any of those three players can do the job of all three. And we need to somehow teach people how to take advantage of that. I mean, it's kind of like, you're in the workplace and you get an intern to come work with you, or, a colleague, it's a team. Most business, at least in my experience, is kind of a team sport. So you learn to work with your teammates. We need to teach people how to work with their teammates. Some of them might be digital. And do I know the answer? Have I seen that academia knows the answer or business knows the answer? No. But it doesn't feel like an insurmountable problem. We are in the mode of doing what we've been doing, but a little more efficiently and adding these new elements. And the reality is we're probably gonna have to do something slightly different and adapt to the fact that these new elements are the reality, and just plugging them into the old ways of doing things probably isn't the most effective.
And so on that note, I'm probably going to ask you another unanswerable question, but I'm sure you're aware of the fact that there's a lot of doomsaying out there about jobs disappearing, and that anxiety has been communicated to universities and to students to some extent, who worry about, when I graduate from the university, is there going to be a job for me? And so how do I best position myself in whatever this new economy is to optimize my chances of success? If a student came up to you and said, Mr. Malachowsky, what should I do? What's your advice to me so that when I do graduate, I feel like I can move ahead in the economy? Do you have any advice for students?
Well, I mean, my advice hasn't changed despite the onset of AI. At least for the student, I always say, look, you better get good at something, because that's how you're going to get hired. Companies like ours and are looking for something: a marketing person, a salesperson, an engineer, a support person, and you need to get past the resume scanners and the interview vetters and whatever, and then pass an interview. So you better get good at something. But the reality is, the value to you, your company, your family, your community, is actually probably more likely based on your breadth and not just your depth. So learn what other, work in clubs, join organizations, do team projects, learn how to integrate the needs and the challenges and the opportunities that the adjacent, skill sets have, so that when you collectively work on something, that you get a better answer. than you would have done on your own because you would have ignored it, they would have fixed it, they would have done something that you would have to fix. I mean, it's really inefficient, but that's the way the world has been. So, get good at something, but make sure you don't ignore the fact that breadth matters. And I think in this, AI world we're coming into, understanding breadth so that you can go query it, so you can take advantage of the fact that you can get the expertise of your colleague, what would have been your human colleague, in some of these tools, can be brought to bear. So, from that point of view, my advice hasn't changed. The other thing is, don't be overly reliant on these tools. You got to learn something. I mean, you're not going to whip out your phone every time there's a problem in the field, or if you're in an elevator and you got to make your 2-minute elevator pitch for investment or for a job. You're not going to pull out hold on, let me type the prompt, and you got to communicate.
Yeah.
And so my kind of feeling is that liberal arts is the human part of education, and that's going to see a resurgence. Because that's the creativity, that's the nonlinear connecting the dots, between a lot of things that humans are really good at. That's not going to be represented in the data that AI feeds on. We were talking at dinner last night, and there was a conversation I was in recently about doctors and digital doctors. And the comment that somebody made that really resonated with me was, why would you give up 5,000 years of understanding of how the empathy and sympathy and diagnostic, gut feeling, that's not captured just in the record. What AI is trained on is, traditionally, now there's multimodal and you look at pictures and videos, but it was text. Text is already filtered through somebody's judgment of what to write. And they've dismissed the things they thought were irrelevant. They wrote what they thought was the tangent, cogent points, and that's what we're learning on. But people don't. I mean, by the time you wrote something, you've considered in your head 50 things, and you wrote one. And that's not captured in the data which represents the experience, but that is what's in people's heads. And so there's a whole part of the human experience that's not ever likely to be captured in these models. So I think the human plays a vital role in milking it for all it can be. Let it do the parts. You don't have to remember every fact. You could look facts up. But to know that there was a fact out there, that's good, right? That there is something that you should go look it up. There's a lot of experience in people that we should not dismiss.
So you touched on a controversy which is raging in academia now. If you read Inside Higher Ed or the Chronicle of Higher Education,
I don't,
or even
Joe.
the New York Times. Well, and that's why you're so far ahead of the rest of us.
Blissfully ignorant.
But people worry, or at least a segment of the faculty worry a lot about students being overly reliant on AI, and in fact whipping out their calculator or their their smartphone whenever they need to, and they worry about how do they get students to actually learn in an AI environment where ChatGPT could answer virtually any question instantaneously for you, and I think there's a lot of worry about that in general. There's a lot of worry about how do you assess students' learning, again, when they have such powerful tools at their fingertips. I don't know if you have any thoughts or wisdom along those lines.
My thought would be let them learn however they want to learn, but test them in person. Talk to them. Because that, leaves the technology behind. Either it helped you understand something, help you articulate something, help you get your arms around some complex topic, or it didn't. Who cares how they learned? I mean, education for a long time has been very prescriptive, right? You sit there, somebody lectures at you, you do some assignments to see if you picked up, and and you're tested whether you picked up what you were taught. And that's, first of all, not everybody learns that way, and it seems that it leaves out a lot, and that's why you graduate from college, the rhetoric has always been, you've learned how to learn. That's more important than any of the specific things you picked up, because you're going to go into the workplace or whatever your career turns out to be, and then you'll use that background to assimilate, the actual skills that you need. So I think, let people learn however they need to learn, however they learn best, in whatever depth, and then test them in person to, maybe it's an oral, more oral things, or demonstrate some skills that leaves the machine behind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're coming.
Did I solve the controversy?
I'm sure you did. I'm sure that if there is,
because you heard it here first.
If there is a reporter out there, it will appear in tomorrow's New York Times or Chronicle of Higher Education or whatever. But since we're approaching the end of this, I sort of want to cue up the next panel, which is coming, which is really about the future. I mean, AI is just such an enormously rapidly developing technology that it's a little bit mysterious how to position yourself, move into the future, allocate resources, make choices about what to do. And so I want to ask you, if you have a vision for the next 1, 2, 3 years about the way we're going to move, how you think industry is going to change what it's doing, education should be changing what it's doing, how the business of what we do is going to change. Because it is, very, very rapidly developing. We see agents bursting upon the scenes. We see internally universities having great discussions about what does education look like when AI is fully implemented. We see industry talking about what does the workforce look like, how does it change, should I hold off on hiring people, should I hire more people now? There's a great ferment and a little bit of uncertainty out there, so we'd like to take advantage of whatever wisdom you want to offer on this subject.
Well, I will say that my effort to sort of popularize the UF experience, I think, has triggered the conversation, at least in the states I visited, and that's progress. The fact that either they see an answer in this experience, or it triggers a thought of what would work better in my state, in my schools. So I think we're advancing. What does the future look like? The future is we stop talking about AI. I mean, I think that'd be a good future, where we don't talk about everything being electric, but it's kind of the same thing. It's an underlying mechanism behind a lot of things. Okay, AI will be an underlying mechanism behind a lot of things. When we can start talking about the benefits and let it be indistinguishable from magic, I guess was the Arthur C. Clarke line. So, one, we move beyond worrying about exactly how things are done. We talk about whether they're being done well or can be done better. I mean, I just worry the word artificial in the AI thing is the wrong word. It just invokes fear. We should talk about augmented, amplified, something, that doesn't sort of go right to the thing, I'm being replaced. So one, the conversation is going, and I think that conversation is healthy. I think industry is coming to grips with, how either AI is going to help them or hurt them, how their workforce and workflows, equally importantly, need to change and adapt to this, kind of new reality. AI is this great democratizing force, which I think is going to cause another thing. I mean, you're a small school in a small state, you could be on the same technological footing as the best and the biggest anywhere in the world. We don't even teach spreadsheets universally. But if we get AI literacy universally, at least we have a minimum technological level that, you can be assumed. I'm hoping that this is a way for the states to worry, take care of their own and invest locally. I mean, I think that's how you get national resilience, if all the states and the state economies are strong. I'm hoping that we don't let the rhetoric of fear keep us from progressing and adopting and figuring out how best to use all this technology, because the rest of the world doesn't seem to be so hampered. And we could talk ourselves out of a lot of things if we're not careful. And for people whose eyes are wide open, and you can embrace the fact that there's risks and rewards, and we can focus on diminishing the risks and amplifying the rewards, use your voice. Help dampen the rhetoric. I'm not saying there's not downside, but if we give in to the downside, it's probably going to happen. But if we embrace the potential, I'm counting on the resilience, the ingenuity, the power of the potential to get us to a better future and not succumb to not succumb to the rhetoric. So states can take they don't like the national research agenda, do your own. You don't like, you're not getting support for whatever your ecological problem might be, go work on it yourself. Use your own students, use your own citizens. Help them compete on the world stage. So whether it's 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, I think we're on the right track, and the seeds of success, or overcoming the negative rhetoric have been sown, and we just need to keep fanning them, I guess.
Well, and on that note, let me wrap up by thanking Chris Malachowsky, visionary, philanthropist, inventor. For sharing his thoughts and inspiration with us. We're all on this a tremendous journey, and I think in large part, you are the cause of the journey, Chris.
For better or worse.
For better or worse. And so we thank you for your continued participation, enthusiasm, and your thoughts. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe. Okay.